Pardesi Beats.
Hanji, welcome to Pardesi Beats Unplugged. If you're a first-time listener to Pardesi Beats programming, welcome in. And for those who have been with us before in a different time, in a different place, welcome back. We're very excited to be back with you with Pardesi Beats Unplugged. I myself am Dhadwal and have been a co-host of Pardesi Beats for the past 4 years. And along with me is the creator and brainchild of everything Pardesi Beats, Patwant Singh. So Pardesi Beats has been a staple of the ethnic radio community in Edmonton for over the past decade. And as is the case with any good thing, any great thing, it's important to adapt and change with the times. So we're back with this audio and video podcast called Pardesi Beats Unplugged. And what exactly should you expect from this unplugged version of Pardesi Beats? Essentially, what we're hoping to do is to create a podcast that allows four friends to just talk about and banter about a wide range of different topics. Each week, we'll have different topics, different debates, different discussions. In another time and in another place, we talked a lot about the Edmonton Oilers and a lot about sports, and that'll be one of our main topics for sure. But we'll also talk about a myriad of other topics, things like mental health, pop culture, current events, the trials and tribulations of being children of first-generation immigrants. Heck, we'll even talk about some woodworking and DIY if we feel like it. Hopefully, you'll join us on this journey, and we're glad that you're here, and we're glad to be back. As always, feel free to leave us any feedback down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or listening on any other platform. So that's Pardesi Beats Unplugged in a nutshell. Just four friends talking about things to get your mind off of the chaos that is this world. So let me introduce you to the other co-hosts of this program. First and foremost, the creator of all things Pardesi Beats, Patwant Singh. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I hope you guys are all doing good. Very proud that, the brand Pardesi Beats has made it to this point through all the speed bumps we've encountered on the road this far, all the beautiful views the way here. And so, essentially, in short, we've decided to go online with Pardesi Beats. Just why not? Well, let's have a podcast that's, on YouTube. It's accessible to everybody, as well as being relevant on, all the major podcast carriers that you might be listening to us on as well. So you guys can watch us and you guys can listen to us. And if you remember back, if those of you that have been our radio listeners in the past, if you remember back to some of the shows that I hosted, I did mention, there will be some video things coming up soon. And this is what I was alluding to. So Pardesi Beats Unplugged is literally that. We're unplugged because we're all doing our own Zoom call and we're unplugged from the actual radio frequency. But as Dhadwal just alluded to, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Sometimes we'll have even guest hosts on. A lot of you can also give us ideas for topics that we can talk about, because the whole thing with Pardesi Beats was that it's for you guys, it's for their listeners and now viewers. So it's for our community. And in our community, we feel like we're no different. We're born in Canada, children of first-generation immigrants that came from Punjab for the most part, or other parts, eventually, once upon a time Punjab. And then, I feel like through this, podcast, we have a voice that we can offer for a lot of people in the community. So you guys can definitely offer your suggestions. You can offer your comments, your feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'm very excited about this new venture. This is episode 0 because it's our first episode and there might be some technical stuff along the way. So it's a special edition episode 0, just like comic books. There used to be a issue 0. It's a special edition collector's item. YouTube owns it, I guess, but we also own it. I'm going to pass it off to who should we go to next? Put your hands up. Who wants to go next? Kush or Simran? We're going to introduce you guys. Simran, go ahead, and then Kush will go into you after that.
Okay, now, hey, young man. What's up? I'm Simran. Yeah, I'm the one whose opinions actually matter on the show. Let's get that out of the way right now.
He's the Don Cherry.
Yeah. I'm here for your sound bites and your trash talk.
Entertainment.
Yeah,
And the advanced stats. The advanced
yeah.
stats.
Also that because
and
science
anger.
is number one. Yeah, lots
Don
of that.
Cherry. Shout out Don Cherry.
I'll bring a better suit next time. How about?
It's all good.
Yeah, it has to have polka dots.
So Simran's been with us. I'll just jump in. Simran, you've been with us on and off for the last, I guess, year and a half.
Yeah, something like that. I tagged in about a year and a half ago, and you all asked me to join in on the hockey side of things because, for whatever reason, I've decided to torture myself by watching this team and being a fan of this team for the last however many years.
Referring to the Edmonton Oilers, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's a thing, and now we're in our almost second year of doing this show, and this is the first episode unplugged. So should be a pretty interesting time.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I'll refer to that for the AC Beats sports show that everybody's talking about. We didn't really talk about it fully, but I'll talk about it in a minute. But Khushwant, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. As you've heard, my name is Khushwant or Kush. So yeah, like I've been part of the Pardesi Beats show for a little while as well. I've jumped in and out here and there, and I've done other stuff with Mr. M. Dhadwal and Patwant Singh, kind of in their career on air. And we
used
started
to massage our feet while we were on air.
Yeah, sure. This really stinky feet. So anyways, like we obviously had all have a passion for sports. For us, it was kind of an outlet to kind of reach local community originally, as a lot of our stuff was in Punjabi, so that was nice to kind of share sports and kind of spread awareness of different things in sport, right? Just more than just the game. And so now this opportunity for us, like we've been talking about this for a long time, doing like a podcast, a video cast, whatever, and so I'm excited to do it. We have less constraints. It's going to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more variety for us. So yeah, we'll see where the reins take us. A lot of different things to talk about, and it's going to be a good time. And yeah, you can enjoy our silliness, our stupidness, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy alongside with us.
So, just to follow up and just wrap up our little intros there for all the viewers and listeners, essentially how this came to be in a way is, so Pardesi Beats has been a radio show for the entertainment side of Punjabi music with a Pardesi touch, meaning it's more for the, I guess you can say, audience that was born not in India or Punjab, I should say. More of them that were born here in Canada or potentially elsewhere that enjoy a little bit more of a Western sound with different genres of music mixed with Punjabi. Now, that started unofficially in 2007, officially in 2012, and has been going since. Pardesi Beats Powerplay, which was a show we did on Mondays for the last 2 issues, alluding to 2 years here, was a sports show which was focused on primarily the Edmonton Oilers, with us being based out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, but also other NHL teams, other sports that are around the world. And guess what? Wrestling as well, for all you WWE and other wrestling league fans. We also talk about wrestling, cricket, everything you can imagine, MMA. We talk about it all. But so we were kind of split between sports and then music entertainment. So what we did is we encompassed that here with Pardesi Beats Unplugged. We pulled the plug on being under another organizational umbrella. We went independent, and we have a little bit more freedom to talk and banter about random things. And we'll have different topics each day with subtopics perhaps. But Pardesi Beats, guys, it's meant for you guys that are the listeners, that are the viewers, and your feedback definitely will help us proceed with the show. If I'm missing anything, guys can jump in and tell me. But yeah.
Let's give her, bud.
Let's give her. Episode 0, boom, starts now.
Let's start right with the Edmonton Oilers. So as of
Jesus
this
Christ.
recording, the Oilers have already played. They had a nice afternoon cup of tea with the Ottawa Senators.
Your favorite
the old,
team.
the old matinee game once a season.
The
where
old
we usually
matinee,
get
yeah.
shit
So
kicked
with
by
the win
Colorado.
today, though, they are now in second place as of this recording
It's amazing what
in the
playing
North
Ottawa.
Division, which is the surprise. Hey, we beat Ottawa. But looking at this season so far, it's been interesting. It's hard to kind of really pinpoint what this season has been. Has it been a good season? Has it been a bad season? But I think overall there's been a lot of ups and downs, inconsistencies. So there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad, and it's kind of hard to figure out what this team is and what it looked like with about 25 games left in the season.
Yeah, it's like super subjective, right? Because like if you've been an Oilers fan for a long time, this is actually a good season. Which is sad. But like because
Yeah.
you know the goal is to win the Stanley Cup or even make playoffs, which is something the Oilers have struggled for the last 15 plus years. And if you're an Oilers fan, it's pretty well known. If you're a other Canadian team fan, you probably know this too because you like to make fun of us as Oilers fans. So it's weird, but it's also when you're trying to be competitive, like even in today's league, there's a lot, like you said, inconsistencies and things that there is to nitpick on, which we'll do. But if you look in the context of things, where we've been in the last few years, it's not the worst season we've had, and there's a chance of playoffs for us. So things aren't the worst, but there is a lot of glaring holes. That
A
need to
high
be
chance of
addressed.
playoffs based off of today.
I think based off of the way the playoff format is this year, the four teams in the North Division are going to be those. We're seeing Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and most likely Montreal as a fourth.
Yeah.
To the playoffs.
So if you'd indulge me for a second, just to put it into context for you, Kush, this team has made the playoffs for the second year in a row, or will be making the playoffs for the second year in a row.
Well, technically, they didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, they finished like top two in their conference. So like,
yeah,
really,
they had a good year in the standings.
They would have made the playoffs in a regular season. After missing the playoffs for a year and then making it to the second round and getting kicked out in 7 games to the Anaheim Ducks, six or 7 games.
7, yeah.
And then not having made the playoffs since what am I thinking here? 2006, since losing the Stanley Cup Finals.
2006.
Okay, so all in all, that sounds pretty amazing. This year in particular, you have a generational talent playing alongside, a first round lottery pick and then like a third round pick or a third overall pick, who have combined for a scoring pace that has not been seen since the likes of Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr together on the Pittsburgh Penguins back in the 90s. You also have a guy, a 38 or 39-year-old goaltender who's probably having a Vezina caliber season and a career best season at 38 or 39 years old, after probably being one of the major reasons for why we failed in the playoffs or the play-in round the year previous. You have young guys in Darnell Nurse, Ethan Bear, Caleb Jones, like playing out of their minds, despite the best efforts of your head coach. You have guys like Tyson Barrie, who's probably going to rack up like 70 points, and is like first 70-point defenseman since Paul Coffey.
Paul Coffey, yep.
Right. And then right alongside him, probably Darnell Nurse, who leads the league in even strength scoring, is the first defenseman to do that on this team since, I want to say, Yanni Nienema. I might be wrong on that one.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, but
definitely the most goals since like Surrey or something.
In a really long time. And he's getting Norris buzz, whether that's well earned or not, that's yet to be seen, and we can definitely discuss that. But really, this team is getting a lot of amazing performances out of some pretty stellar players, and yet sit third in a division where they're not playing any more than 7 teams, is it? Over and over again.
And now with the remaining schedule that we have, we don't get to see Ottawa or Toronto anymore.
Yeah, and you're likely not to see Vancouver either, due to their immensely terrifying COVID situation. Which, I don't know if you guys want to get into that, but like it's quite incredible. I think a 21st case has now come up as per the report by Darren Dreger, and they're struggling with that crazy Brazilian variant that's quite aggressive apparently. So really terrifying there.
Yeah, they're like they're getting impacted by it. Like the players are feeling it, which means because most athletes that have been reporting, I got COVID, they're fine. But
they lost the sense of taste, and that was really about it. But this
variant is hitting them,
kicking the crap out of this team. But
just another issue altogether in Canada.
Really, how does it affect? How does it affect my team? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pull it back to the Oilers. So as Simran pointed out, a lot of these players like Nurse and Barry are playing above, I guess, expectations coming in. Even Mike Smith, I would say, when we re-signed him in the offseason, there was a lot of naysayers, including a few
myself.
Most of us were all like, what is this?
I'm still waiting for that bubble to pop there.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Alex Stalock. I know.
Yes.
He's a good Plan B backup.
Sure.
Right.
He's
definitely not. Yeah, but I mean, Koskinen did not play terribly today, which was nice.
You know what? And here's the thing: like we know that based on a reduced workload, like he would probably find success a little bit more. Like there were some. It was very obvious that he had played too many games at the beginning of the season as Mike Smith was returning from injury. And at that point, he was fairly burnt out and needed some rest, and then had a little bit of wobble in his game when he was trying to find it, and really wasn't getting consistent starts to find it, as Dave Tippett really does favor Mike Smith. I think that's pretty obvious. I think Mike Smith has rightfully taken that starter's position. That being said, like can Dave Tippett ride Mike Smith at 38 or 39 years old?
I think for the season, because you know what, when
condensed schedule,
when he signed Smith, I didn't see that as a bad thing. Being I guess you can say older fan of the Oilers, seeing you guys probably remember these guys too, but maybe differently than me. But seeing goalies like Bob Essensa and Dwayne Rolson and what they were capable of doing. And understanding that with time, age is variable based off of personal fitness and things like that. Seeing Smith being signed for the season, I know it was still I was still like, interesting. Like, okay, sure. But I wasn't disheartened by it because Smith is one of those goalies as a backup, keep in mind, not as a number one, but he's one of those goalies that at least you know he's there and you have him if you need him. Now, the reason that I think Smith caused a lot of "are you sure?" type of reactions is because Koskinen. Okay, so the thing is, like, you have a decent tool here and a decent tool here. You combine them together, and you're hoping to have a very good situation with two adequate tools, right? Two goalies that are adequate. But I didn't see Smith as a bad thing because it's better to have Smith than somebody who you don't even know who this person is. They're new to the team. They're new to the organization, to the coach. So at least from my perspective, familiarity for the coach with Smith, whether it's favoritism or not, is a good thing in terms of confidence. So that's my 2 cents on that, maybe 3 cents, right? But you know what I mean.
But I'm going to jump in quickly. Favoritism aside, I think Mike Smith is definitely playing above expectations, even based on NHL history. I saw an interesting stat a couple of days ago. Over the history of the NHL, Mike Smith is putting up numbers similar to or just below what Johnny Bower was doing at the same age when he was in the Vezina candidate conversation. So like that's significant, and that's kind of an anomaly, I think. So
Was that like era adjusted?
I strongly don't think it was. But
The
either way, but like it's an anomaly that he's playing so well. So if we're thinking about
Definitely.
the bigger picture, where's the Oilers' goaltending future?
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
was a lot of our concerns. It's like, okay, you're bringing in the same thing as last year, and we saw what we got, and it wasn't great.
Mhm.
And like when you're building the
I
team,
mean, it was great in the regular season.
I think
yeah,
Dave Tippett's management of the
it was
tandem was very flawed last
very
year, and it led
inconsistent
to
too.
issues.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you want a game winner, especially in goaltending, and that's not what you get with either Smith or Koskinen. Although Smith is playing at this level, and he has in the past in Phoenix or in
Sure.
Arizona, whatever, right? Which is like, I think why Tippett was like, I know this guy can do it, right? But when you're like 39, you don't expect that, obviously. So like, yeah, it's an anomaly of a season. I'd say it's great that we're getting it. It's lucky, I'd say, in a sense, right? But like, yeah, that doesn't really solve any issues going forward for us. And like, these are things we're gonna have to get into because, like, you know, defensively issues, goaltending issues. As Simran started going into those like gaping holes, coaching decisions, right? So
Yeah.
let's be happy with it, but let's also be aware that it could fall apart later on too. Who knows,
Yeah.
like, if he's gonna
You
hold
s-
up as well.
You see,
Yeah.
I think we have to look at this season right now, and you know, it's like those old sayings. Somebody once told me this. It was a tailor in a suit shop, and I was going in there and I was trying to lose weight, and I'm like, you know, I don't want it too loose. They're like, you know what? When you buy a suit, you buy one that fits you right now. You don't buy one for next year. You don't want to buy one for how you used to look. You buy for what fits you now, and you can get it adjusted later. And that's a very random example, but the point that I'm trying to make with that is that this year's Oilers are working. There's something that's happening it's not negative. I wouldn't say it's extremely positive, but it's definitely good enough. Now, the momentum is the thing that I think they need to keep. If they lose momentum with the way they're built, they can fall fast. If they keep their momentum, it's like a steady rise that they have, right? So for me, being a fan of another sports team that had quite an elusive and well-known manager, that reminds me of that team mentality. They don't care if you're a superstar goalie or defenseman or whatever. You still have to play as a good team. That's why when we had McDavid and Draisaitl running the whole team, we were like, where's the secondary scoring? Where's the depth? We were worried, right? So I think
Referring
for
to
now
last
we're
year, yeah.
okay. But I think also Tippett and our GM knew that, we don't have anything ready for long term. We better just solidify something for this season, and then we'll have to see
Also
after.
remembering this year with the flat cap, that really handcuffed not only the Oilers but a lot of other GMs as well.
Yeah.
So
You know what? I gotta jump in. There's a lot of retroactive reasoning, and like hindsight seems like it's 2020 about this whole situation. At the time, signing Mike Smith, when you
Didn't
have
make sense.
Mikko Koskinen signed to for 2 more years at $4.5 million as a 32-year-old goaltender who was around league average, signing Mike Smith as his backup was a terrible idea.
That way for sure.
To well over market value, okay? Coming off of a terrible season, coming off of like a extended career, which literally he's been riding since that one playoff push that he had with Phoenix, where he was like above league average as a goalie. He's been amongst the worst goalies in the league since that time. Like, he's either at the bottom or he's been like, let's not pretend that we can extrapolate this year's Mike Smith into the future, because this is the anomaly year.
Yeah, it's
You're
like
not
lightning in
gonna
a
get
bottle.
you're not gonna get this again, and that's why I'm saying, like, this can blow up at any time. Now, part two of that is
there's still 25 games
just
left, so
because
it can
something is
still-
working right now, there's no indication, and statistically you can look this up, there's no such thing as momentum. Your performance in game one is not, there's no correlation to it bearing success in game two. Zero. And similarly to all other games going forward. the idea of momentum is a narrative built up by teams and coaches to sort of
Hype
give them an
everybody up.
excuse.
And
Yeah,
influence the players
it's a
to-
mental thing. And sure,
Exactly.
maybe there's an aspect of that sports psychology that goes into it. But realistically, this team has real flaws, and they've had these flaws for like McDavid's entire career as a professional,
even before
and even before that. Okay?
Whoa.
They're porous. They're porous.
It's been
on
a while,
lefty.
guys.
Yeah.
They're porous on lefty. The fact that they have to have, or the fact that they have to rely on Chris Russell playing regular top 4 minutes is astonishing, considering he was signed to a 1-year deal as basically a expansion draft fodder for this team at the beginning of the season.
It's another
They
one
were
of those
hoping
things
that-
where
yeah,
it's
they-
like, oh, this is my guy, right? Because
exactly.
he likes the way he plays. It's kind of like
Well,
that coaching decision where you're like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? And
right,
then I was
so-
just going to get into that. So it was like from there,
This is a perfect segue into one of my favorite segments on the show. It's going to be good, bad, and ugly.
Oof.
And I think for me, and I'm gonna let you continue on your train here, Simran.
Yeah.
The ugliest part of the season so far is some of the coaching decisions by Dave Tippett, particularly with Evan Bouchard. I think you have a player like that who has shown in short spurts that he can stay and play well in the right situations, knowing that you have a abbreviated schedule, putting him in at least for a couple of games at least.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense that he is not playing at all.
The tandem of Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse. Like, first of all, let's say that, hey, the way this defense is performing and the way this team has performed since losing Oscar Klefbom, like, he's a massive part of this team. He is a bona fide number one defenseman, especially on this team. And I don't know if he's top 15 in the league. There's a lot of metrics that suggest various things, but based on his contract, which is an absolute steal, based on the numbers this guy plays, and based on the on ice sort of underlying statistics that he's shown, he is a number one D-man. Darnell Nurse hasn't shown that flat out. The guy scores, and it's going to get him paid, but the other things that make a good defenseman,
Like defense.
He hasn't shown that he's been able to do those things. And frankly, there is more value in doing those things than just scoring, because those things lead to more goals for and less goals against.
Yeah, and I think that's why people are like, "Oh my God, Darnell's playing amazing."
Yeah.
It's because he's finally
getting the
the
points.
offensive output,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's
these
would you have James Harden on your team?
yeah.
You think James Harden is going to win you a cup or win you a championship?
Yeah, like if you rely on him alone, you've already seen, right?
Yeah,
Like
and that's a very, very like
Specific
exaggerated,
example,
sort of example.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, because
Yeah.
it's like, there's those flaws that we talked about last year and even previous years about him. They're still kind of there, like especially like even getting the puck out, making smart plays in your own zone,
Returning to pick up the puck off the boards.
Yeah.
It's just a routine thing, and it's something that what's his name? He came in to play Adam Oates, like, constantly reinforces the idea of the length of your stick. It has something to do with how you return to the puck constantly, and how you're going to turn to look up ice.
Tom
And
Pody
find-
as well with the stick length.
Yeah, so it's that weird thing that he, like, I don't know if it's like a mental block for him or what. That being said, like, back to coaching, you're playing a over the hill defenseman who's really in Tyson Barrie alongside this guy, who's literally all about jumping up the rush, all about trying to be an offensive defenseman. Can't really skate backwards, frankly. He gets his dollars blown off like on a regular basis by average forwards.
I can't either, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, hey, who among us can?
Oh,
just me. That's all I can do. I can't skate forward, just backwards.
That's another problem being
He's
a
used
child
to-
of a Punjabi immigrant, you can say.
yeah, there you
well,
go.
he's been used to it for the team me and him play on.
Oh, jeez. Get turned
Yeah,
down left,
I'm
right.
always skating backwards for that team, man.
But like that, yeah. Oh man. But that's my point. Is just like you have guys that are taking priority on this organizational depth chart, I should say that probably shouldn't, over kids like Evan Bouchard, who can't get sent down at this point to the minors because of the not taxi squad rules, but because of the COVID regulations. Trying to bring him back up would mean he would need to quarantine. So it would essentially mean an end to the idea of
wouldn't it be effective for an immediate need?
Yeah,
sure.
in the regular season.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to use the guy, why is he there? Like he's been in the press box this whole time.
Yeah, it's kind of like that classic case of like what we Oilers have done a long time for their prospects, where like, you know, you get these prospects and instead of getting them in developmental, you bring them here, you waste them up, you don't put them in the opportunities they need. They don't get the opportunity to grow and shine. They get put on like they're forced into a bad position, or they're just wasted on like a fourth, third line, right?
Yeah.
And then like something
traded.
even. Yeah, like I even want to touch back like on the point you made about like momentum, right?
Yeah.
Simran. Like, so like I think I don't know, like sure, I haven't done any research about these kind of things, but like the psychology side of things, I think that matters a lot in terms of confidence. So momentum, but the confidence. And I feel like the only reason like these players are doing well, and I think they're like getting that shine and luster from, you know, fans or whatever, it's like, oh, amazing, because they're exuding a lot of confidence as well. And then like when you, it's like you know, what outweighs the other thing, right? So like
I think confidence is definitely real.
Yeah, and I think they're definitely like, there's enough of them where it's like, okay, the positives are slightly ahead of the negatives, right? Because with Barry, like there's no defense. No, like let's be real. And then I even like the point, you know, that Patwant made, like about the analogy he made, right? So like that to me makes sense. That's actually what Holland did, which is what we complained about it a lot. We did not like it, but that's what he did. He's just like, here's a little. Here's like tuck tape or whatever, and there's the hole in your water heater. So,
it'll be interesting to see what he does with actual
like this
roster space, and like
this offseason's interesting. It could be
really
be a lot
of guys coming off the roster or coming off the cap this summer.
Yeah, and that's why I was like interested about this season, because it's like we didn't do much, but we're playing well. So I feel like the players have matured a bit. We did change up the secondary aspect of the forwards front a good amount, and defense has changed a decent amount too, right?
Well, to your point, like there's the idea of that confidence, like it gives, like you look at a young player like Caleb Jones, compared to a guy like you know, Tyson Barrie. Tyson Barrie last year had no confidence playing for Mike Babcock.
Yeah,
you know, that changed around a little bit when he was playing for Sheldon Keefe, but Mike Babcock had him in a shutdown role with Jake Muzzin, and he really struggled. And this is what you're seeing most of, like you come to this team and they're like, hey, we just want you to like forget defense. Clearly, we just want you to go out there and hit dingers, bro. And that's what he's been doing. He's been hitting dingers. He tees up passes really well on the power play. But that's about all he does. And his play 5-on-5 and even on the power play, he actually drags down performance of other players. But because he's been scoring and they're finishing at such a high rate, it doesn't really matter. And so he's given the appearance that he's doing well. Either way, it's good for him. It's well in his context. I look at a kid like Caleb Jones, who at the first mistake, he gets benched or he gets a healthy scratch. Is like, I think he played his first game since like mid-February, just the other day against who was it? I think it was against Montreal that he worked his way in on after Lagesson got hurt. It was last week, and I don't know if these guys really prioritize him over Lagesson, or they prioritize Lagesson over him. But the expansion draft is coming, and that's a weapon. Those underlying numbers don't lie. He's probably one of your best left-handed defensemen on this team, and you got to have confidence in these guys going forward. If you're not going to be adding anybody on that left-hand side going into the playoffs, because there's nobody else you're going to be playing in there, especially if Lagesson is hurt.
And kind of jumping on that Tippett doesn't, right?
Yeah, and kind of jumping on that confidence piece, especially with Tippett's coaching. I think one thing that we've seen, and that's kind of surprised us, is that the confidence in that secondary scoring. So a signing like Devon Shore and even Jujhar Khaira, right? Like they've shown up this year. We weren't no expectations at all coming into the season for those
nice
people.
goal the other day.
And I think they've performed really well.
I think Jujhar was really he was expected to be your fourth line center this year. I don't know how good of a center he is. I think that healthy scratch maybe gave him the time to actually get his legs under him.
And everything that I've heard, he's exactly. He's putting in that work at practice as well. So he's staying after, and it's paying off, and he has looked really good. Even I gotta say, like Devon Shore, I'm gonna bring it up again. We signed him and Kyle Turris. We're not talking about Kyle Turris, so nope. That line has looked really well, even with Archibald on the line. So I think that secondary scoring is something that's really, really good that we're seeing. With
I do have issues with those kind of guys, just because I think like they might be able to ride percentages here and there. I think that the underlying stats don't look very favorably on guys like Devon Shore, especially when you have guys like Tyler Ennis as healthy scratches, as put on waivers for guys like that. I think and even Joakim Nygard, like they put him on waivers just to see if another team would bite. Otherwise, I think he's going back to Europe, because he's like, if I'm not playing here, then why am I here, right? So I think those two guys are far more skilled than a guy like Devon Shore. That being said,
Chason on the Powerplay one.
Oh my God.
We'll save that for another hour.
He's a good 5-on-5 player. Like his possession, he doesn't hurt you on like 5-on-5. The issue is that he doesn't do anything else on 5-on-5. So he's basically a fourth liner at this point. He's replacement level. And what kills me is that his power play production is like a remnant of that 1 year where he scored. He's not that guy.
Goals,
he got lucky. He's riding a high percentage, and
that's right back to that ugly stubbornness of Tippett's coaching. Right? It's like why are you not trying a Puljujarvi there?
Yeah, and he is trying him on the second unit. So when that second unit comes out, they end up scoring a lot.
Yeah, but you put Puljujarvi with McDavid in a power play situation.
Oh my god!
Especially a guy like him who wants to shoot. That's the kind of guy you want on the power play, right?
And he's an ox. The kids.
Yeah, he heads down. He just goes.
Yeah, he has something to prove, right? Like
I think that
came back after a long time.
That's a very good positive of the season this year. Is Puljujarvi.
I think
he definitely is a plus point for us this year, and he came back, and he's just because he seemed like beforehand that he was out to lunch. Seemed like a lot of people said. I think he came back and he's like, "Yo, I wasn't out to lunch. Whatever else was the problem, I want to show you that I was actually here, and I am here, and I have gotten better. I'm going to give you a reason to keep me now."
I think that's the one thing where I will give Ken Holland credit for.
That conversation,
he didn't give up on him.
Having that conversation, that's a very adult, because I know there's a lot of the attitude of a lot of NHL executives.
You don't want to be here, then F off, right? Like you would expect that.
We're too good for you, you little peon. Like you think you're gonna be in a it's literally that.
It's true. I mean, it's like he's like he's saying that he's bigger than the organization, right?
Mike Milbury quite literally made Tommy Salo cry in a arbitration hearing as a 21 or 22 year old. Like he was in front of the court, and Mike Milbury during this arbitration hearing tore into Tommy Salo so badly. This kid started openly weeping in court in front of his boss and a lot of the team executives above him, and was never the same after that. Asked for a trade out of town. He ended up, I think, going to Colorado, and then ended up finding his way to Edmonton. But that was the really the overarching sort of mentality of NHL executives, and you still see that too.
I think that
still there,
touches a lot into hockey culture in general. Like,
I mean, we saw the toxic narratives around Neil.
You hear about this with coaches all the time.
Yeah,
you know, Mike Babcock.
There's even a thing where there was a period where players would just be like, they would do the same thing, a little bit reverse psychology, where there was like some heavy duty players. We experienced that in Edmonton with one after 2006. Unfortunately, because the player was solid, but the players will be like, "Yo, I want out.
Well,
And-
yeah, I think that was extracurricular stuff, but like,
Well, I mean,
there's
regardless,
rumors, yeah, but like
the fact that a player can approach a official of a team or like a higher end operative of a team and say, "Hey, I want to go," and that they have to be like, "Okay."
I think
like-
that was foolhardy of them in the first place, but they could have just been like, "No, you're
Yeah,
screw you, buddy,
exactly.
you're staying." Like,
And that's
we're
where,
we're
like-
gonna trade you on our dime, not when we get pennies on the dollar for you because you signed a
Exactly. So
contract.
that's where I see different type of managers in the games, like
Yeah.
from the past, and I'm kind of like, why aren't people being like this person, right? Like, I have no idea. I've seen some good examples with teams I love, and it doesn't always translate to hockey, but it can. Like,
Well, yeah, we've seen the positive of that with Steve Yzerman and Jonathan Drouin.
exactly.
Like, he waited out Jonathan Drouin and his agent, told them, "Listen, we're not going to trade you. You can chill. You can play or you can't. It's up to you. But I'm not going to be forced into trading you." And then Jonathan Drouin came back to that team. He was welcomed into that team. He played, and then when a trade suited Steve Yzerman and the Tampa Bay Lightning,
that trade, yeah.
they made
And they
that
pulled
trade.
it.
And now Mikhail Sergachev is probably Jesus,
Ooh.
probably top
He's a
top
good
15
one.
defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they didn't just win the cup for no reason. Like,
Yeah.
Steve Yzerman and what's his face, the guy who's there right now as a GM. Like, they're smart people. Steve Yzerman's probably one of the few GMs, like in top 5, that legitimately scare me. That like they're like our GM is talking
very intelligent
openly to a guy like that. Yeah, because he's gonna pull the wool over your eyes.
I think that's a great transition into next week's trade deadline. So April 12th. We've already seen some fireworks. So as of this recording, New York Islanders and the New Jersey Devils did a little bit of a dance. So Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac both went over to the Islanders. So for
Okay.
AJ Greer, Mason Jobst, first round pick and a 4th round pick. So
I don't know any of those Islanders.
But that first is probably pretty valuable for New Jersey, who's
Yeah,
like a
and
team that's pretty much I don't know if they're rebuilding, but they're restructuring definitely.
But also remember this, that both of those players, so both Zajac and Palmieri, are unrestricted free agents. So
This is
if
a
that's
pure
the
rental
ask-
situation.
Yeah, and if that's the asking price for two players like that, what is the asking price for a player like Taylor Hall?
Well, with Paul Murray though, like
Pure goal scorer.
he's yeah,
Pure
but
goal
he
scorer.
plays on the right. So like getting somebody like him is actually very hard if we look at our right wing goal scorers in the league and what they've done over the last few years.
Yeah,
I think he was top 5 in scoring in the last since he's been in the Devil.
something like that.
Yeah,
Historically, I mean, he's been there quite a while. Too.
Yeah, so like that's actually crazy value when you have to put it in context like that too and see what else you're getting in that position from a goal scorer. So it's a lot you're getting, and then Zajac is you're just going to get a lot of solid veteran leadership and defensive play, but you're not going to get anything game changing with him, right? I think maybe that's a move for New Jersey to take him off our plate too.
He has also been on a little bit of a hot streak lately. So I mean,
I love him. Like he's been on New Jersey since I've been cheering.
You're a
for the
big
team.
Jersey guy too. Though,
Yeah, so like I love him.
Yeah. He's like, I mean, Lou is one of those guys that really likes his guys, right? He brought in.
Similar to Ken Holland too, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you could say that about just about any GM.
Yeah, exactly.
Although Ken Holland's fascination with
Luke Clendenning
Luke Clendenning is utterly terrifying. That does okay. Anyway, Lou's Lou, man. Lou's gonna bring in his own guys. He brought in was it Matt Martin on like a 5-year like ridiculous deal to the island. He's gonna like his hard nosed sort of guys. The interesting thing is. Or the X factor in this situation is Barry Trotz, who will turn chicken shit into chicken salad left and right. I mean, they lost Anders Lee, and I think this maybe fills a little bit of the scoring punch and a little bit of the defensive hole.
But even then with the Islanders, they're getting scoring from players on their third line. So like
Wallstrom I think this is mostly just like. I mean, Wallstrom's like a U.S. national development team, like standout.
Yeah.
They've been drafting very, very well.
I don't know about the Islanders players. Were those prospects?
Yeah, those are some. I think what I would probably classify them as B prospects, but I'm not too read up on New York. Okay. I kept a close eye on their last few first round picks. and their first rounds have been since really the year we traded for Griffin
Strom?
Reinhart.
Oh, okay.
Since we traded for Griffin Reinhart,
Man.
I've been keeping an eye on their first round, and they've been very, very successful in the later stages of the first round. Like phenomenal. Like from like Matt Barzal, Wallstrom was a guy I really wanted. We ended up taking Bouchard, but there was picks within that. I think they took Shillington. I believe they took Shillington, and then Shillington ended up in Calgary. I think that's how it went for somebody or something like that. Yeah, it might have been for Dougie, or not Dougie, Travis Hamonic. I think that was the trade there. I might be
Reinhart. You brought up Reinhart, man. Him not
Yeah,
working out. It was very, very sad. I wish.
Dude, it was obvious the moment they made that trade that it wasn't going to work. Like the value they gave up for him, the fact that he was a left-handed pick based on our organizational depth at the time was all in the left side, and then the fact that every scout would tell you this guy does not have the boots for the NHL. He's a defensive defenseman because he had found success in Edmonton as an Oil King, and because of his last name, because of his draft pedigree and everything like that, and because of our scouts' over familiarity with him, having seen him play so much as the captain of the Memorial Cup winning Edmonton Oil Kings, he had an overly inflated draft stock. If he was that good of a player, New York wouldn't have let him go, and he would have been on that team right out of the gate. Instead, he bumbled around the AHL, and if anybody had seen him play in the AHL, he was terrible.
Yeah, he came into the league right when the speed factor changed. You know what I mean?
I mean, no. I mean, like we saw it before. Like the Oilers overfavored like that archetype of defenseman. We saw it with Nick Schultz. We saw it with Colton Tubert when we traded away Dustin Penner. We saw it with guys like Keith Ollie and Andrew Ference. And,
jam guys.
Yeah, Nikita and Keaton, like these middling sort of milquetoast, guys that you think are like gonna be Steve Staios, but end up being like nowhere near. They're like just insignificant picks.
I got a question for you. What's milk toast?
Milk toast is you should know this one. It's a British like breakfast food where they take.
I know. I just wanted to for the viewers.
They take toast and they literally take a dud and they put dud on the toast.
Because you took like a very Canadian topic and you just threw some Queen of England on there, and I was like, wait, let's put some reference on this.
All right. So before the trade deadline, obviously Taylor Hall is going to get traded because the Sabres are sitting him out. Where does he go now? Like the Islanders were in talks with Hall. They were rumored to be in talks with Hall. Palmieri was rumored with Boston.
Hall comes home, man. Hall comes home.
No, I think that's one of the best locations.
Well,
I don't think our GM has the acumen to make that kind of a trade.
The GM also stated a little bit earlier that he is not probably going to make any big moves at the deadline. So
the thing
what's our cap space even? I don't think we have
we don't have cap space, so it's got to be money in, money out.
Yeah.
They're willing to retain on him, but then the price would be a lot higher.
The thing is, we have to make other moves to allow Hall to fit in financially. But he's willing to come to Edmonton, though. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah,
I forgot where
I mean, if your team's lost that many games in a row in Buffalo,
you're probably willing.
I think everyone wants out. Yeah,
but he specifically said because he has like a no trade or something.
I thought that was released on April's Fools.
No, there was.
I'm pretty sure you've been April fooled.
I've been April fooled, man. But at the end of the day,
I don't know. I'm just saying. I saw that too.
That depth of him. Just imagine for a second if he was here, and his personality fit in based on rumors we've heard being Edmontonians. But if it all worked out,
I don't think he'll have a problem there.
Yeah. I think here would be amazing. Obviously, I think it'd be such a great fit.
Nice. Okay, so other than Edmonton, because there's favoritism there, there's history there. There's I don't know, hope there, I guess, for some of us.
It's hard to think where he would go because like Islanders made so much sense.
Like he can go anywhere.
a team like Colorado makes sense, but do they
Colorado
really,
makes a lot of sense. I think.
but do they really need him? Like they're firing on all cylinders right now.
I'll say
They're-
what no one wants to say. Vegas.
But
Oh, that'd be
Vegas
scary.
does. Yeah, but Vegas does not
But,
have the cap space. Like
yeah.
it would be
Vegas-
very hard.
Vegas
He would do
has-
sick
has-
on Vegas. He'd be
Vegas
awesome
has
in
made
Vegas.
it work before, and let me tell you something. They have a will
they'll find a way.
to
That would be- that'd
move
be
cap
sick.
space.
They
for a
make
guy
it
like
work,
Taylor
yeah,
Hall, they'll make
yeah.
it work. And
They'll just have
can-
somebody pull a slot machine outside. Some of that cap space goes out. They'll pull
And you
some
know
in
what?
on the other
Frankly,
side.
Buffalo has a if depending on what they get back, Buffalo is probably going to be
They
very
could-
very
they
willing
could
to
take,
retain a portion of his salary based on half the season is done, so it's the cap hit might be a lot, but
Is-
in actual salary terms, it's not going to
It's
be a lot of
lower,
money.
yeah.
So
You guys see him
that's an
staying?
interesting thing.
No, there's no. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
he's staying.
absolutely
They're already sitting him, so he's as good as gone. Like they sat Palmieri as well.
If
in,
they
New
keep
Jersey
him-
and they traded him.
If they keep
Doesn't make
him,
sense.
the management should get fired immediately.
Yeah, it does
like-
not make sense at all.
For them to be holding on to assets like that
Yeah,
and not maximizing return on their assets, because that's what they're doing right now. Their team is such an abject failure. And the craziest thing is that they're actually a
Does
cap
Jack
team
Eichel
this
get
year,
traded?
or very near a
Jack
cap
Eichel
team.
also get traded?
Yeah, that's the interesting one. If he
That-
does,
that would-
my guess is New York Rangers.
That would
take
be
him.
crazy if they
Take him
actually
on the
traded-
Oilers.
I don't think there's no way they would trade him.
I don't know.
The other place I would
You think so?
imagine him going is Vancouver.
Hall?
I mean,
Yeah.
No.
Eichel?
Jack Eichel. Yeah.
There's a lot of
Every-
reasons for nobody to want to go there right now.
Yeah, but
I
it'll
think
be
They're
interesting to see.
they're not horrible. Like Vancouver can be pretty good with a few moves.
I'm just talking about their health concerns.
Like,
at the
right-
moment.
right now,
The thing with
it's-
Vancouver is that they're so ridiculously locked up in such a cap hell, and it's specifically due to the fact that their general manager cannot.
Specifically due to Louis Eriksson.
Yeah, well, their general manager does not. Like somebody needs to take his keys away, like during the free agency.
We gotta get DJ here on here to talk about the Canucks
Yeah,
sometime.
they need
We'll get
to,
him
they
in
need
one
to
day.
lock. They need to lock Jim Benning in the basement in one of those like padded rooms and take away his keys and his laptop and his cell phone.
Are
and
you
just- and-
are you secretly a Canucks fan? Is because it sounds like a lot of Canucks Twitter.
you know
right
what?
now.
I think the best times. I think the best times when I like to be a fan of my team is when other teams are good. Like when I watch the Oilers play Toronto, I'm actually into the games.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're the
Yeah.
underdog.
They're
right?
competitive.
There's that
Or
underdog
like,
mentality.
We watch them play Winnipeg and we watch them play Montreal, and those are actual good games to watch.
They're competitive.
I don't
games.
need to watch them play Ottawa. And
I mean,
kick the
today's
crap out of
game.
Ottawa.
I mean, today's game was pretty close too.
Yeah,
which,
today, yeah.
which
credit to
means the
Ottawa.
Oilers would, credit to Ottawa
Yeah.
for sure. But let's kind of move on to our next topic. So as we mentioned at the start of our program, we'll talk a lot about sports, and that's kind of what we did so far. But we are also lovers of Punjabi music. So one of the topics I wanted to talk about today, and we were talking about it before we even went on air, the greatest Punjabi singer of all time. Who is the GOAT of Punjabi music? And I guess the first step is, how do you even define the greatest of all time? If you look at other sports, Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, that debate still widely debated.
And see,
Yeah.
before the
Mario
show,
Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, like you can make arguments for both.
so exactly. So the thing is, like, when you have one entity, which in this case would be a singer,
Yeah, it has to be a vocalist.
Okay, so no, that's not the point. I get that. We'll get into the classifications of this GOAT status, but what I'm trying to say is, when you have one entity, there's multiple people that one entity will appeal to. Then you'll have another entity, right? And multiple people that will appeal to. So those multiple people that those two entities appeal to, there's going to be some of those multiple people that both appeal to. So how do you define the GOAT, especially like Mario Lemieux? I loved him. Gretzky, I loved him as well. I didn't hate one. I didn't pick one over the other. I just thought, yo, man, put these guys on Team Canada. Let's call it a day, which happened. But what I want to say is, let's define what this Punjabi singer has to be. Simran, you were saying he has to be a singer. He or she, by the way, has to be a
Doesn't matter.
singer. And what other parameters are there to picking this greatest of all time?
Right. So their primary credit should be as the vocalist, right?
Okay.
So that means you guys like Santar, guys like Janji Dahuja, who are probably very good vocalists, are out. Okay. Secondly, you should look at his or her impact as a vocalist. Okay. So their actual technical skill, right? You should look at their impact on the industry. Okay. And then thirdly, the impact that they have on the general diaspora or on Punjabi culture as a whole.
Okay.
So if they're
What
that
about-
influential, if they're that big of a goat,
Yeah.
then what they do outside of music or adjacent to music, I'll say, has to be just as impactful as what they do.
So
with
I
the
already,
mic.
based on all these parameters, I mean, I already have my answer now. Okay. But here's the other thing that I want to throw in there. Like, we didn't really do this, and maybe we can do this in another show, or we can have some, some of you guys comment or give us some feedback based on what your ideas would be, or what you consider to, I guess you could say, classify an artist to be your favorite. But there's also eras, is what I wanted to say. There's different eras. And for me, Punjabi music, or music in general, has like a 2-decade era. Like, it's a 2-decade time span where things sort of flow in before they become a totally different thing. That's only in this lifetime, though, that I've experienced. Before that, people usually go by decades, right? So we can do this. Yeah, like we can, Simran, you were mentioning once that we should do this all the time, and we can often touch on this. But right now, do you guys want me to go first, or who wants to
Well,
go
I
first?
was also gonna throw in two other factors. So I think Simran made
Sure.
some very good
Yeah,
points,
definitely.
but also longevity and recognizability.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
Like we've seen a lot of artists come in, they have their few years of popularity, they're very good,
Yeah.
but then we don't hear from
burnout is
them
real
again,
in the Punjabi industry. Punjabi
right?
music.
It's very difficult to maintain that level of success,
Yeah.
that level of relevancy for a long period of time.
It applies to
Yeah.
everything, like sports,
Yeah, that's true as well.
music, whatever, right? Like the best of the best, they'll be relevant for like 20 years probably, right?
Well, I mean, like, look
30
at,
years, lifetime.
I mean, look at Kuldeep Manik. I'm jamming to his tunes, original
Still, yeah.
tunes. Still today,
Yeah.
I had them playing
Yeah.
in my truck today.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, that's the type of artist that I think of. But my pick was a little bit more modern. But at the same time, any other parameters that we should
For me, it's like most of it has to do with enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because like for the technical stuff, that doesn't really do it for me anyways. Like I don't care. That's never what
for a singer, it's not more technical. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy the music.
where your voice is gonna hit your pitch, these things, like if you're on tempo,
Okay.
you know what I mean, like those type of things.
Vocal
Whereas like
abilities, yeah.
If the guy
like,
can sing, we don't really care like how crazy
Yeah.
he can do. Yeah,
it's
as
like,
long as,
did
long
you
as he's
enjoy
passable,
it?
I guess,
How
Yeah.
did that music, that art that vocalist was a part of, like how did that make you feel? Those kind of things, like that's really important for me. So
And all right, Pat, your pick for the greatest Punjabi artist of all time.
so pop off. Give us your reasons, and then pass it on.
Yeah, let's do a quick little boom, boom, boom. Okay. So mine is Diljit Dosanjh. And I know that ever is a very hard thing to pick Diljit with, but to be very honest with what Diljit Dosanjh has done lately with the hashtag farmers protest, with the movements there, that's just outside of any artist thing that he does. He's influential in different genres of different fields in terms of entertainment field. So Bollywood, he's influential. Punjabi cinema industry, he's influential. Music scene, he's influential. In the North American music scene, with the Billboard ratings, he's been influential.
Yeah.
He's making a splash in the United States right now because he's kind of, he's there. And he's making a splash with different genres and different types of artists out there. You guys will hear about that more coming up. I just know that for a fact. So,
and I think
But
that's
still.
based on the criteria. If you look at Diljit's body of work, in a decade from now, No question. Diljit is going to
Yeah.
be.
You know,
top
and
of the
that's the
list.
thing. Diljit has been around, and a lot of
For a very long
people,
time, yeah.
like especially all the Diljit haters that are against, I guess you can say Kassan haters on Twitter. A lot of them are like, "Well, you just got famous now." No, he's been around
He's
for
been
quite a
around.
long
He's
time.
been str-
Bro, he's
Yeah.
been
He
He
was
went through the
rather-
struggle. He's
Yeah.
a Pind da Munda, which means
He was
he's
not
a village
known.
boy, a small town boy, right?
Yeah. If you
And
want to,
he-
yeah, exactly. Chocolate's like the best example. Like, who knew
Yeah.
about Diljit? He looks like a young Lember there or something.
Yeah,
You know,
Planet
like,
Records.
And he's
photos.
and the thing with like a contrast to Lember is Diljit has modified and evolved
Yeah.
along the way. His
Adapted.
appearance
That's
too.
what I was
Well,
gonna
I
add
think,
to
yeah,
your
I think
stuff.
that
Like,
was his like Inderjeet Nikku phase where they're all kind of tying their.
Well,
plugs
that's when the
between their-
Patiala Shai pug, the
Yeah, yeah,
turban
yeah.
that they wore at that time, was very in style. But his turban, and I'm speaking this in English because we might have more than Punjabi listeners and viewers, but his turban has modified to kind of fit with modern styles and different types of genres of work that he's doing. He might be doing a film about. He did Punjab 1984, and he had a Vattan wali pug in that one, and he had different types of pugs and different things, but he just wears his normal pug now.
and his
And
music has evolved as well, like that, right? It's
his music has
changed.
evolved, but back to the parameters of not just being an evolving artist, he's with the times. He's very conscious of social impactful movements as well as pop culture, and he's very human at the same time. Like this he does funny things.
Relatable.
He's relatable,
sure,
but he
yeah.
does funny things. Like he'll go on to Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, all these people's Twitters, Instagrams, and he'll comment funny stuff that just the average Joe will see. And obviously it gets brought out because people see it. But lately, like we're filming this, April 7th, we're filming this right now, 2021, just so there's reference. He did a Fruity Canna commercial. You can watch it on his Instagram. And it's just like, Diljit is a high level artist, but he'll still go to Fruity Canna and do a commercial for you. And he'll still go over to Bollywood and do a film. And he'll still show up at the borders in Delhi at the farmers protests, the Kisan protests.
So
And
you're
he'll
saying
sit
there's
there
like
with
a
the common
layer of,
people.
like humility there.
I think he's a human who's an artist. And it's not he's an artist living like, I'm the artist. He's like, yo, I'm Diljit. This is who I am. I live this way. I breathe this way. I'm an artist this way. I'm a person this way. And you know what? Everybody else on Twitter that he's tweeting against, you can also hear about that. So he's pretty real. He keeps it real. That's my pick. I think we should go on to somebody else because I can talk about Diljit for hours, and I know we all
Yeah,
can.
I don't know if do we want to like add anything to Diljit? I think
You
I
guys
like
can
that
add.
pick.
Okay,
I
you know
like
what?
that pick.
I like that pick a lot. I think
Yeah.
that, and like I said, in 10 years, in a decade from now, Diljit 100% is at that top of that list of greatest
Yeah.
of all time Punjabi artists
Yeah.
for sure.
It's a guy who's definitely had to grind musically to get his music out there. Like the changes he's gone through, like we watched, like you said, like from Chocolate. I think his peak for me was really Back to Basics, the album he released with True School. I think that put him on the map on
Globally, yeah.
globally, both
Globally, yeah.
vocally it showcased him as an artist. It really I think the pairing of the two of them was really stellar. He
I
had a
was
bunch of
thinking about
different
that a few
yeah,
days
he had
ago,
a
actually.
bunch of different singles, and then I think his last few albums have a little bit been a bit of a mixed bag for me. But the big thing for me was the guy was always an entertainer on stage, just an amazing stage presence.
And I think that's a big thing. Like we haven't really seen that in the Punjabi music industry, like that level of concert.
Yeah.
Like we see that in Western music, right? You go to a concert for Nickelback or go for a concert.
This guy sells out stadiums as a Punjabi singer.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty
Nickelback.
rare nowadays.
Yeah.
Especially when guys like, aren't touring at that level anymore. Like, I mean, you might do a wedding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might do a mela, but you're not doing a standalone stadium
Right.
yourself.
Tour,
You know?
yeah.
Shout
And
out to
he's-
Nickelback. I thought you were gonna say like Drake the Weeknd or something, where you guy throws in Nickelback.
You
You're from
gotta
Alberta,
throw in that
when, right?
Canadian.
Yeah.
You gotta throw in
Yeah.
that
Oh my
Canadian.
God.
One thing I wanted to like tie into is like his impact by wearing a pug. Like that's been very
Okay, yeah. Very
true.
normalized and
Huge,
mainstream. That like he's brought to the table. It's like, yo, it's a pug. it's all good, right? Like, you know,
You
like
know-
that it hasn't been widespread like him to be like this is
That gets me.
like,
That's gonna get me started. For that's
you
a
know what?
topic
Let
for
me
another
tell you
day.
something.
You're gonna
So
get me
for
heated.
those of you that are
Yeah.
listeners or viewers that don't know what a pug is a turban. So us, like, I mean, right now we're undercover because this is episode 0. But typically, three of us here, other than Dhadwal, we're turbans and we're undercover right now.
and
We're just
sometimes he does too.
don't blow our cover, guys.
Yeah.
But you know, me and one of my friends who you guys have heard on the other Pardesi Beats show, his name is Manpreet Singh, comes on sometimes, and we had this one episode called Bad Pug Day, and
Oh
it
my
was pretty
God.
funny, or Good Pug Day, Bad Pug Day, and we will talk about that later, guys. We'll have that
That's
on
a good
here.
topic.
As well.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Pardesi Beats Unplugged. We'll talk about
good.
good pug days, bad
Good
pug
and
days.
bad.
It's a
But
whole other topic. Yeah.
the point was, during that episode airing, which I can go back, I think it was 2013, 14, 15, but we were talking off air. I explicitly remember this, that this guy, there's many singers who wear turbans who don't have their hair. There's a relevance from the Sikh religion to keep your hair uncut. And then obviously to top it off with the crown, which would be your turban. But culturally, some people just wear the turban as a form of pride. And Diljit doesn't have his hair, but he makes it a point to represent his people, his Punjabi and Sikh people, by wearing his turban everywhere. This guy made it to Bollywood. He got multiple offers in different roles where they said, just you don't wear a turban in this role, and he refused them. And what that tells me is that this guy is standing up for his identity and the identity of his community and his roots, which, as an artist, to stick to that and not change who you are as a person and evolve your art and get to that big stage where he is something huge. Like, he's not backing off from who he is as a person.
Well, as a human being, like, that's very amazing to see, because like a lot of people, they'll sell out. We'll use the word sell out and their
Sure.
morals and everything, and then bam, you know, they
But-
just gotta get the
that's
bag. They
very
gotta
true.
secure the bag.
You
right?
know, with Pardesi Beats Powerplay, when we did our sports show, we used to also talk about, you know, people that, you know, what's the word, relatability, or hey, there's somebody on TV or in the media that looks like me, that I can relate to, that inspires me to be somewhere, right? Diljit did that for a lot of people who wear turbans. There are so many singers, Gurdas Maan, for example, Kuldeep Manik, whoever, who didn't wear
Let's not get
turbans.
started on Gurdas Maan.
Well, I'm not talking about the politics of Gurdas Maan. I'm talking about the iconic Punjabi singer Gurdas Maan. And I know what you mean. But Diljit had the pug, so we're all like, yo, that's dope. And we related that with guys like Harnarayan Singh, who's in Hockey Night in Canada, and he's.
I think that's a topic we should probably just touch on, like,
We will.
at a whole other time, because like
And
there's
we
so
will.
much.
That's a
Yeah.
whole show in
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, I agree.
So we'll have a bad pug day, good pug day segment in a turban.
I think that's the title of a whole episode.
Yeah,
That-
BPD
that's-
or
yeah.
something.
But so next up,
DPD.
Malik, you want to give yours?
I'm gonna cop out because
Shout out to
Wow.
Diljit, by
You
the way.
have to. You
Wow.
have
well,
to.
I will justify my cop out. I think the point of trying to define eras, right? So you have a Wayne Gretzky compared to a Connor McDavid. It's
Man just
comparing
fully-
apples to oranges.
Matt just
I'm-
fully
I'm-
like unplugged his
That is
controller.
the worst.
You gotta pick somebody,
worst
Malik. Here's the
Rage
thing.
quit
A
on
guy
We-
like
all of
me-
us could have
no, wait,
said
hold on,
that.
guys. A guy like me who's older than you guys and didn't pick so many epic singers. I could have picked Balvinder Safri, and when you think of Balvinder Safri, you're just like, oh, those
Oh
songs.
my god.
Also, this isn't
Steve
a
Simmer, look at-
declaration necessarily of like you declare this person
Yeah.
as the best. Like, it's more
I
of a
didn't pick.
it's like a
Yeah.
favorite.
I didn't
It's like a
pick
favorite.
any
Yeah,
of
yeah,
these people. I didn't pick Kuldeep Manik or Sadul Sikandar. I picked Diljit. You got to pick somebody.
I listen
You
to
gotta
the
pick- We'll come
back to
podcasts
Malik.
all the
Yeah,
time,
okay.
and they
No,
do
I-
this,
I-
so
yeah.
you have to.
I can
Okay, we'll come back
justify.
to you.
No, I'll continue. So for me, it's like Jazzy B has that influence on modern day music.
That's
Where
a
did-
solid pick.
That's a
Where did Jazzy B's influence come from? Kuldeep Manik.
Kuldeep Manik,
Yeah.
So now, if you look back at that lineage, it's like, okay, Kuldeep Manik is
who came from
one-
Yamla Jat.
Exactly. So it's like it's such a spectrum. But again, for me, I listen to a lot of that old music, and I like a lot of that technical aspect of music, being a vocalist myself. So I think somebody like Sardul Skandar is somebody that's
Oh, yeah.
shown a lot of adaptability as well. Like we've seen
He
him,
also, yeah.
like we saw him with his last release with Prophecy. He
Mhm.
showed he can sing in that modern era.
Maulik.
but he still had that classical touch. We've seen
Man.
Aur Punjab Banadi. Like that is still a banger to this day.
And even
But-
before all that, Maulik, he did that Roadways the Lari.
Yeah,
he's
Muhammad
that-
Sadiq.
a lot of
copy
people.
with-
A lot of people forget that he started out doing impressions
Mimicry.
of
Yeah,
other
mimicry with
singers.
with Kuldeep Manik. So he
Yeah.
came with Kuldeep Manik on tour to North America, and kind of that's where he started. So my pick is going to be Sardul Skandar as the greatest of all time.
Fair pick,
to,
man.
to-
Solid
like
pick.
the of that. So he had like Zara Hasakivakaz's first album, and then right after he had Husna de Malko.
But even before he had Gidda Beat before that too. With
Yeah. But like the bravery to have the kind of musical interludes that he did in those.
Oh, yeah. Well,
in those
but
pieces,
you
and a lot of
gotta
that has
credit
to do-
you gotta
Yeah.
credit that to Charanjit Ahuja too.
Yeah, the
Like,
Ahuja
the
brothers
music pieces
definitely
were
phenomenal.
very influential.
But then to carry those musical pieces with the kind of vocal chops that he did at the time, and then the lyricism that he had at the time, and then you look at that era was how powerfully it was defined.
That era was
by stage performance.
yeah.
This man
the stage
turned
presence
a
was
Mela stage into a sad ass ballad concert that everybody was still vibing with. I think
So here's the thing. Let me jump in for a second. And Sardul Sikandar was one of those artists that I'm going to give you a different perspective based on somebody. And I know all of us in one way or another, some more than others, are students of music, Punjabi music, Indian classical music, if you want to call it that, the rhythm side and the melody side, both. But what I want to say is every single video on YouTube that I've seen of Sardul Sikandar, every single one, I've learned something new. And in each one, watching it again, I picked up another thing here and there. So multiple times I've learned 2-3 different things at different instances from him and what he's saying. Not just learned, but also solidified some of my thoughts and feelings. He was a very genuine artist, a really good, you know, person. And from what I can tell, I mean, I don't know him personally, but he was really real, and he did a lot of stuff for the people as a musician.
My appreciation of Sardul Skandar really comes from that that authenticity as an artist, where you could really see him feeling everything he was saying or singing when he sang it. And it didn't matter if it was just like a mehfil caught on a like iPhone in someone's basement, or if it was, you know, like a stage program, you know, in Jubilee Auditorium, you know, or if it was like a live, or if it was like a studio recording for an album. Every one of those instances, I felt like he was giving a part of himself in his recordings, and I don't really see that kind of genuineness and openness and vulnerability as an artist from
I think the word that comes to my mind is like that humility. Like he was very very humble.
Very humble
honest,
artist.
yeah. There's just so much open, and like you immediately connect with it. And that is, and I think back to that release with Prophecy, and I think about how much we've lost out on.
Yeah, huge. And here's the thing. There was a video. So I've been following one of his two sons quite immensely in the last few years, even before he passed away or got sick, Alap Sikandar. And the reason I've been following him is because he actually, I know a few people who know him. So he's like 2-3 friends removed. But I heard about him from somebody before I followed him on social media and saw. And I heard he went to a institute in Toronto to learn music, like audio engineering. And I did that too. So I was very interested to see. And then I discovered his passion for the guitar, electric guitar specifically. And oh my goodness gracious, this guy's a metalhead. Alap Sikandar.
That's wild.
And can you imagine being a metalhead, learning audio engineering, learning the guitar as a metal fan, and then also being the son of and student of Sardul Sikandar?
Wow.
Like, holy snap. That was, and then watching him and Sarang Sikandar together doing a few little mahfils on YouTube, I was just like, wow, like, I'm so glad that there are remnants that will take me back to that feeling.
There's a
listening
legacy
to Sardul Sikandar. still to date, because a lot of artists have kids or offspring or descendants that don't do justice or don't take you exactly back there. But Sardul Sikandar with his two sons, listening to them, I go back to feeling that feeling I did with Sardul. So top pick, man.
All right, Kushi, you're up next, bro.
Okay, so you guys went into a deep dive there of like technical, all these feelings,
technical dive, yeah.
Yeah, like like impact and stuff. But like for me, like it's I'm not, when I listen to music, it's not like that for me, right? Like I, even with like lyrics, a lot of people, that's why they listen to like hip hop or pop and stuff. Like it's a lot of lyric based stuff. But for me personally, I don't do my music that way. What has always drawn me in is the production of music first, and then kind
It's
of
gotta be a banger.
Yeah, it's like whatever it is for me. It's like so many. I listen to every genre, right? So there's nothing specific, but except for country. Country is like very hit. Very miss, sometimes hit. But anyways, in regards to my favorite artists, so I'm picking this guy based on enjoyability at definitely like receptions and parties and doing bhangra, just enjoying yourself.
I was gonna say Kushi's dance ability. That's the scale.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's
Can you jiggle to this song?
Yeah, and for me, it's Malkeet Singh, right? Because
Okay.
he is timeless in a sense. He's done many different eras. He's not your like a Kawali singer, like so poetic and beautiful, but like he has that ability for sure. And he in a revolutionary kind of sense, or changing the game that started with the boy bands. Golden Star,
very interestingly,
Golden Star, and then he kind of like did his own thing.
Boy bands.
Yeah,
made the sparkly headbands.
The classic boy bands in our Punjabi music, right? Awesome times.
UK bands, you mean? Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
they were boy bands.
It's funner. Yeah,
they were boy
it's
bands.
funner to
Let's be
say
real.
boy bands. Anyways, so like that's kind of where he was breaking in. Then he had a lot of bangers and hit songs, and even like like his latest releases, still some great songs, right? And like for me, like my Punjabi's not good. You guys already know this, and if you've heard me speak before, it's not that great. But the music it was associated with his his songs that he's in, it's always good to me. Like there's so many songs. If I look at my playlist and look at all my whole Punjabi playlist, like there's so many songs of Malkeet Singh from his entire like 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, right? He's hit the whole time frame for me. So like it's like longevity for me, and I just love it. Like it hits my soul in a way that like I'm like an animal. I want to dance. Like
so here's the thing, you're in your third decade of life, right? And having said that, all 3 decades of your life, think about the time span here, have been infused with dancing and enjoying Malkeet Singh's music.
He would have been a part of each decade, like like when we're kids going to like receptions or whatever with our parents,
all those memories, those background songs you hear as you're like fooling around on the playground,
when you're playing with your friends and stuff, like he's there then to now.
And I think we were talking sort of off to the side that we should have a full episode about this. Like we will, but for the sake of time, we already got some 3 sick artists here. Simran, who's your pick, man?
All right, so we talked about.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry, we didn't also mention he is a knight as well in England.
Oh yes.
Okay, yeah. So that's
MBE
pretty,
and
big ball in there.
Yeah. So
sorry,
no, that's fine. So,
all right,
so for me, we talk about the influence outside of Punjabi music, right? The impact on diaspora, the impact on culture, and certainly there's a lot of impactful people you guys have brought up. Diljit, very, very impactful in the modern era, and obviously I don't really think we fully understand the scope of such an artist until after his career is done. Jazzy B, similarly, you brought up Jazzy B. We talk about how many Hummers were sold because he comes out with Surma, and apne bande don't even know what a Hummer is or Humvee is, and then next thing
they don't know what a Humvee is. They know what a Hummer is.
GM is cranking out Humvees left and right because apne folks want Humvees. then you talk about, or like just stylistically, his choices, how they bled into the cultural attire of our
my attire in high school.
our generations. Yeah, we talk about yeah, exactly. From the hair to
From
your
his
choice of
performances
shoes.
on stage.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
matched.
That's true. My performance on stage, yeah.
Yeah, and then the personality, the charisma, the swagger, all that. For me, the guy that probably defined that for a generation was Sarjeet Bindrakhia. You're talking about a guy who lyrically did different things, who was an immense trendsetter. Like he had those in the 90s, there was music videos where you had the whole Fauji attire going on for a few of his music videos, and that became a trend.
The army attire.
Music videos, yeah, the army attire. You talk about Tera Yaar Bolda, and he was driving around a Lundi Jeep, and Lundiyan Jeepan became a thing across Punjab, to the point where there's still a thing. You talk about chadre and kodiyan and donaliyan rakhaniyan and this and that, and tole waliyan paggan bannaniyan, and DCB salute marda, and all that stuff that came in his lyrics. They were literally cultural calling cards, anthems that became bigger than the artist himself.
He was one of the original anthem makers, for
yeah,
sure.
one of the original
anthem
makers.
after anthem after anthem.
Yeah, and we talk about left and right, and I think he came at a critical juncture where there was this sort of burgeoning aftermarket of remixed albums, and people wanted DJs at weddings, and the whole wedding culture outside of the music industry became popular, and that whole thing about weddings, and so having turned up bass and slightly remixed songs at weddings. And Pat, you were part of that era.
Don't date me, man.
Sorry, but like you realistically, right? Like when that Dole Blasters album came out, or when Planet Punk came out, you were there. You needed that. You needed the hot get right to play that weekend, because receptions were popping off.
With Sarjeet Bindrakhia, like Simran alluded to, he came in at a time, and he kind of honestly acted as like a bridge between that old and new era. Like if you look at some of his tracks, he sang with Dilshad Akhtar, Dera Jatt Da, still a banger.
Yeah, still
like he had, and if you look at the 80s and the earlier, like look at Surinder Shinda, with the Jattande, right? That was an anthem.
100%.
But then you have like Bindrakhia continuing that that on. So I think it was kind of that transition. Like he carried that.
When Bindrakhia came out, there was that's when the shift in the Punjabi industry in Punjab from Punjab started. That Charanjit Ahuja sort of, I guess you can say, quarterbacked.
And you had guys like Manmohan Waris, Gil Hardeep, you had Durga Rangila, you had all these sort of like megastars of their own time.
Yeah, so there was a spectrum of artists that were also there at the same time that weren't part of the Charanjit Ahuja camp, and Surjit Bindrakhia was one of those spectrum, I guess you can say, knights riding solo, 100%. So to speak, but was also, as a person, buddies with all these other people. If you've seen any concert, I remember seeing a few concerts, even on YouTube, and he's buddies with like Sardul Sikandar. They're just chilling, doing their thing, but he still worked as a lone wolf, and what he did with that body of work was just immensely amazing. And there wasn't any, from the most like Surile artists to the most like, I'll say it, Gand singing artists. We all respected him, and he could trump any spectrum of Punjabi music.
I mean, so, it's important to recognize, and we should put an asterisk on this. Like, you understand that era was significant for a number of things, and part of that was a lot of the advancement of some toxic tropes in Punjabi in Punjabi music, right? That culture of casteism and like sexism and pushing a sort of certain agendas, and certainly some things that were pretty toxic, right? By today's standards, and some of those things have still bled into Punjabi music today, and maybe we can have a time where we can talk about that further. But
of course,
I think it's important to recognize that that isn't, it's not lost on us, right? But for his impact, I think it was quite profound at the time. And I think where it really started was the fact that he was such a remarkable entertainer. He had the vocal chops, certainly. I mean, he was crushing it in his like hake contests, right?
Yeah, his hake is still
one of the it's on record as second best. But,
yeah, I mean that's something that's not even like it's something that kids these days. Oh, Jesus, I'm gonna do this now. I'm an old man. But like we don't really understand the significance of something like that. But like for a reason, right? To understand it, like right? Especially on stage, you played with a toll. You did bowling for
singing. Yeah, singing live versus singing over tape is
a whole different thing. It's not like Mickey Singh's whispering into a microphone anymore, you know, and then you can just auto tune it to however you want it to be.
Shout out Mickey Singh.
Well, that's what got me with Bindaraki as well. Like he's I love him too.
Yeah,
like he just did obviously, like, you know, he passed away. So the like for me in terms of like an era, he wasn't as much in my.
He didn't complete the area, right? He's like a Cam Neely,
but his
even a Mario Lemieux.
His vocals are absolutely like phenomenal. It's like I don't. It's hard to.
I think Pat just made low-key just made a very strong comparison. I think
a
Mario Lemieux, right? Like he is a short body of work, but very significant.
Yeah. Very, very, very significant. That's the thing. Like, so you look at his from his earliest videos of doing, you know, stage performances for like Bangla teams where he was just doing Boldia. This guy was an entertainer. Then you see him up on stage doing these, you know, he's dancing and doing his thing, and he's pretty out there. And then his style, the way he's tying his bug at a time where just about every major Punjabi singer at that time, like of that age, right, of his age, was rocking a mullet.
Yeah,
straight up. And that was for me, a kid, a Sardar kid growing up, seeing that, someone that cool whose music I liked, you know, I don't know, or like really I liked whatever my dad liked, and my dad liked this guy's music, and seeing that sort of element of my culture in such a colorful and positive way, and to see that man carry himself in such a way, really cool.
Yeah,
definitely. Really cool.
And he was very iconic. Like, you put his face, like if you had a stamp of Punjabi, especially like folk music, Bhangra music, he could be one of the sort of people. If we had a currency, different coins, he'd be on one of the coins.
He'd be on one of the coins. Yeah, 100%. For old school, like OG, like traditional Punjabi Bhangra.
Yeah,
I think he's a real bastion of
and I think the topic of trying to label a greatest of all time is difficult, and
it's a flawed conversation.
Yeah, that's literally impossible.
I have an idea.
It creates good discussion.
Yeah,
creates good discussion. But how about we do this in an upcoming episode? Let's do a draft of sorts.
Ooh.
Can I give a shout out to Sudesh Kumari as well, though?
I was gonna shout out. I mean, female artist Surinder Kaur.
Yo, why are we not flexing on Miss Pooja? Like, there's some.
But again, I'm going back to my point
because we're going through we're hitting our nostalgia of childhood. We didn't get into our teens yet, or like.
I mean, I didn't like any of her songs, but the impact she left on the music industry
definitely
impact for sure.
And I think that kind of stems from also like a singer like Surinder Kaur or Prakash Kaur or Narinder Biba, right? They were like barrier breakers in that era. Yeah, like they broke barriers in that era. So singers like Sudesh Kumari, Miss Pooja, Gurlez Akhtar could influence now.
Irani Randeep, all these
right
big.
So I think I think that is perfect to kind of create that draft. So like we'll do certain eras. You have to pick a certain person. You have to pick a female artist. You have to pick a music producer.
Like a fantasy draft.
I think we need to have a music producer fantasy.
You have to
draft,
make your own team.
Oh, yeah, producers. Whoo!
Hey, think about it. Like Shinda, Charanjit Ahuja, Jayadev Kumar. Even I'm gonna put Prophecy in there, right? Like he's
specialist in
bangers
true
on bangers,
school,
right?
Modern, really good.
Right, so I think that's a good idea for an upcoming episode.
Yeah,
let's do a draft of sorts and kind of try to wrap this topic up. But I think we can talk about this for hours.
It'd be cool to see what everyone like puts, like, you know, in the comments or whatever, like what their thoughts were too, like who's their goats.
Yeah, you know, that's a very good. Yeah, if you're listening, you can't really put it in the comments. You can definitely go to our YouTube video of this and write in the comments
Yeah.
if you feel like, you know, you have some input that you want to give, or you just maybe just want to comment who your goat of all time is, like,
or you can add us. Like, I
Do it,
don't know if our
man.
social's out there yet.
Let's do that as we're wrapping up here. You guys can
Yeah.
message me, follow me on all social media at Dhadwal Music. Throw it over to Patwant.
So mine's simply Patwant Singh, PATWANTSINGH on Twitter and Instagram. I will, however, at the end tell you our collective one. Keep going, guys.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to social media shout out themselves?
If you want to shout out your social media, if not, it's all good too.
Yeah, my Twitter is Chota Sher, CHHOTASHER. I am not exclusively talking about music. I just ramble about whatever. And then,
So why are you a Shota Shade?
Well, it's has to do with a little lifehood of family thing where my elder brother was just known as the Cher, DJ Cher, maybe. So I just, as a little brother, took on the moniker Chota Cher, and that stuck with me for everything. Yeah. And then Instagram is prof_bent. That's PROF_PENT. And yeah, we can always talk shop on Twitter. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Talk about WrestleMania coming up this weekend.
But,
we'll leave that
wrestling,
for another day. Yeah.
Probably don't follow me. You're not gonna like what I have to say.
You should follow his Twitter for sure if you want some entertainment.
Simran Kharal, SIMRAN KHARAL on Twitter, and then it's Lee on the Professional, 2 F's 2 S's on Instagram. You can also follow me at Horn and Feather Design Works on Instagram, where I build stuff.
Yeah,
you're gonna get a lot of woodworking stuff.
Your Twitter should have been Woody the Woodpecker. Straight up.
That was already taken.
You just watch. You go to his page, man. And it's just like you just feel like it's therapy or something. Like, I love
anybody who has any love for creating things out of nothing,
just building stuff. Sometimes we build stuff. Sometimes we fix old stuff. You know, we
gotta appreciate
sometimes
good
you break
artistic nature.
Sometimes we
too.
break stuff. Yeah. Sometimes we burn stuff. Sometimes we eat stuff. Sometimes I flex on them with my face, just once every 6 months.
Shall we call it?
Sometimes we have to end the show.
Yeah, exactly. All
we
right.
have to,
So we'll
we have
meet
to
you
end
guys.
it on that.
Yeah, we'll meet you guys in the next show. Take care, everybody.